Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Kelly, a member of the League of Women Voters of Evanston and a 40-plus year resident of Skokie. I would like to welcome everyone here this evening, and on behalf of the League, as well as our co-sponsor, the Skokie Public Library. The forum we are presenting this evening is for the Village of Skokie Clerk and is scheduled to run for 1 hour. A reminder to everyone, please check that your electronic devices are silenced. Please no flash photography. Photos of the stage are okay, but video or audio recording of the forum is not allowed. The forum is being filmed in its entirety and will be available on both the League and library websites once this forum is completed. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, observes governing bodies, and provides information for the voters at election time. The League does not support or oppose any candidates or political parties. If you would like to find out more about the League, stop at our table in the lobby. We'd like to thank our student volunteers from Niles North High School for their valuable assistance for all 3 nights of the forum. Tonight, our volunteers are serving as timers. Will you raise your hands? Yeah. Alerting the candidates when their speaking time is up. We received many excellent questions, but due to time allowed, questions for the evening are a compilation of submissions from Skokie community groups, individual Skokie residents, and the League of Women Voters. We received many excellent questions, but due to time allowed, are unable to use them all. To find out about when and where to vote, what is on your ballot, voter registration, and more key websites are listed on the flyer that was handed out at the door. If you need a copy, you can pick one up at our table after the forum. After the forum, you will be able to meet the candidates next door in the Rodmacher room. For all League forums, we engage a moderator that resides outside of the district of the race. Tonight, we are honored to have Georgia Vlahos, a member of the League of Women Voters of Evanston. She lives and votes in Evanston. Georgia has been a League member for more than 30 years. She serves on the board of the Evanston League and is a deputy registrar. Before retiring, Georgia served as an administrative judge for the U.S. Merit Systems Protection Board and was legal counsel for the U.S. Navy. I will now hand over the forum to our moderator, Georgia Vlahos.
You hear me? Yes. Let me take a few minutes to explain the format and the rules for this forum. All of the candidates have agreed to abide Okay. All of the candidates have agreed to abide by the following ground rules. The order in which they will make opening statements and answer questions is alphabetical, based on their last name. I will rotate this order when I ask questions. The closing statements will be in reverse alphabetical order. Each candidate will answer every question. Candidates' answers will be timed by our volunteer timers. Each will have 2 minutes for their opening statement and 1.5 minutes to respond to the questions, and also 1.5 minutes for their closing statement. Candidates will be given a 30-second and a 15-second warning by our timers. Time limits will be enforced out of respect for all candidates. The candidates have also agreed to the following ground rules. No visual aids are permitted. Personal attacks are not acceptable in candidate statements and question responses, and I will intervene if any candidate engages in such an attack. There are also rules for you, the audience. The purpose of this forum is to provide a large number of Skokie voters the opportunity to hear the candidates express their positions on the issues. Accordingly, audience members will remain silent and in their seats during the forum. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. Today, we will hear from the 3 candidates for Skokie Village Clerk, Naema Abraham, Minal Desai, and James Johnson. At this time, we will begin with Ms. Abraham and hear her 2-minute opening statements, and then that will be followed, of course, by Ms. Desai and then Mr. Johnson. So, Ms. Abraham, please proceed.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, Skokie Public Library, and our wonderful students for being here on a school night. Thank you. I have actually called Skokie home since 1979, but my journey started 5 years prior to that when my parents immigrated to the United States. I'm proud to say that I'm also a graduate of Niles North, as is my daughter, which for me is a full circle moment that kind of demonstrates the deep connection that I have to this community. Like many of you, like many people in Skokie, I'm an immigrant and a mainstream resident. My daughter affectionately calls me an Americanized immigrant, born in the Middle East but bred in the United States. That perspective allows me to relate to the struggles of immigrant families who try to navigate the government systems, while also understanding the priorities of residents who want efficient government, accessible government, and transparent services. For the past 8 years, I have served as an elected member on the high school District 219 board, including as board president during the COVID-19 crisis. Through my leadership, I worked to expand educational opportunities, removed financial barriers for families, and fought for community-driven initiatives. Because I believe public service is about listening, showing up, and delivering results. I sit before you tonight, like many of you. For me, this election is about breaking the status quo, ensuring that Skokie government is actually working for all residents, not just the selected few. Thank you.
Then Ms. Desai, I'm sorry, Candidate Desai.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Skokie Public Library, and students from District 219 for hosting this forum. My name is Minal Desai, I've had the privilege of living in Skokie for over 30 years and raising my 3 children, who are in the audience, in this amazing community. My extensive experience in community engagement makes it a seamless transition to the role of the clerk. Throughout my career, I have worked closely with the residents, businesses, and organizations to ensure their voices are heard and their needs are met. I understand the importance of transparency, accessibility, and building trust within the community. As a former community banker and vice president of the bank, I worked in Chicago for many years and then had the opportunity to open 2 branches, one here in Skokie and one in Wilmette. The president of the bank and investors knew how involved I was in Skokie, and I was the right person for this role. It was during that time I became involved with the Skokie Chamber of Commerce, of which I sat on the executive board, the District 219 Foundation Board, Skokie Theater Foundation Board, Beautification Commission, and the Kiwanis Board, alongside the late Marlene Williams, longtime sitting clerk. I was appointed last year after Clerk Pramod Shah's retirement. This role is about serving the people, and I am ready to continue doing that work with dedication and efficiency with a friendly and welcoming community member like me.
And now Candidate Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. My name is James Johnson. I'm a local high school teacher, and for the last 4 years, I have had the really incredible honor of serving as a village trustee on your village board and serving as the first independent to ever be elected in Skokie for village office. So inside of Village Hall for the past 4 years, I've been your board's lead advocate and policymaker on sustainability, on affordable housing, on government transparency, and all sorts of really great causes. And outside of Village Hall, I've been the community's lead advocate and policymaker on electoral reform and improving our village elections. Skokie used to have truly one of the worst local electoral systems in the state, and now we have above average one, if not one of the best. So my electoral reform work is what led me to run for clerk to serve as the community's next election official. As a village trustee, I already have a really deep understanding of how the clerk's office can be reformed to make your village government far more welcoming and transparent and accessible than it's been maybe ever. So as clerk, I'm going to do all sorts of really nerdy tasks to make your government much more high functioning. I'm going to improve meeting minutes, improve public comment policies, improve open meetings compliance. I'm going to digitize historical records. I'm going to create a legislation tracker to help residents keep in touch with policymaking. And my main goal, my big vision, is I want to really turn the Skokie Clerk's office into a nonpartisan center for civic engagement in Skokie and serve residents in a really, a more overtly independent and nonpartisan way than clerks have in the past. Thank you.
We'll now proceed with the questions for which you have 90 seconds to respond. We'll begin with Candidate Desai. First question. Please identify and explain your two most important priorities for the office of the village clerk.
Since being the clerk here, I've taken office less than a year. I've implemented numerous mobile events and focused on community engagement through partnerships with several agencies and organizations. This comes easy to me because I have been involved in the community for over 30 years, whether it's through my kids' high school PTA, PTO, the Skokie Chamber of Commerce, all these different agencies and partners that I worked with. I also served 5 years on the Park District Board as a commissioner. And again, it's just building partnerships and relationships in the community and bringing that into the clerk's office to make this a better clerk's office for the community.
The same question, and I'm happy to repeat it if you want. Candidate Johnson.
Two of my big priorities, and I'm going to be very general here. First of all, we need a clerk who's really an independent advocate for residents. For too long, the Skokie Village Clerk has been treated as kind of merely the secretary of the mayor and the trustees. And that is one of the functions of the clerk, but the clerk is a much more multidimensional role than that. So fundamentally, I'm going to kind of operate as an independent advocate elected by residents to serve residents. That's how I'm really going to approach the position. Something that is really lacking in our village government is transparency, but I'm going to hone in on kind of awareness of active village policymaking. So our village does a fantastic job of communicating village services, but our village does not do a good job of communicating what is actually before the board and how residents can really participate and be aware of active public policymaking. As a trustee, I've been sending out kind of meeting reports of every meeting. As your clerk, imagine getting an email ahead of every village meeting from your clerk's office that spells out, here's exactly what's on the agenda, here's what's on the table, here's what you need to know, here's how you participate. Imagine you could go to the village website and access a legislation tracker and keep in touch with every form of local policy making and how it's proceeding through Village Hall. So that kind of awareness of active village policymaking, that's one of my big picture initiatives.
And candidate Abraham, same question.
So for me, very similar to what my colleagues have just stated, engagement is a huge deal for me. At District 219, we recognize that we have a very diverse family population. We have like almost 90 different languages that are spoken. And the first thing that, when I got on that board, they were like, why don't people come and talk to us? And the reason why people don't come and talk to these boards is because many of them are working multiple jobs, they don't have time. And the other thing, being from an immigrant background, I know this very well, it's language barrier. And so as a result of knowing this, we expanded our family liaison. We had a department called Family Liaisons where we had 2 people there when I first started on the board. And it has expanded now to, I think, a dozen. And each one speaks a language that our students need us and the teachers to interpret. So they're basically the conduit between families and teachers. I would like to do the same thing in Village Hall because I think that is lacking. There's so many people that I hear from all the time, why doesn't the village do this or that? They don't go there, they don't know how to navigate the government system whatsoever. And I think we need to open it up so that it's more inclusive. And to do that, you need ambassadors. You need people who can talk the same language as other people. And you need to be open after hours. It's not just a 9 to 5. You have to meet people where they are. So engagement is really the biggest driving factor for me for running for this office. Thank you.
Next question, and we'll start with candidate Johnson. What improvements, if any, would you like to make to the clerk's record-keeping systems?
That's a great question. We need to digitize our village archives. This is something I've been advocating for as a trustee for years and during our annual budget hearings. If you go online, you can see village board records going back 10 or 15 years. But in the clerk's office, we have village records going back to the 1880s. They have not been digitized. Village records. So we can collaborate with community partners like the library, like the Heritage Museum, like the Historical Society to make our village board records really accessible. The library has already done incredible work to digitize Skokie news archives going back many decades. We can do the same thing for village board records. I'm also going to really improve our meeting minutes. The format of our meeting minutes has not been updated in decades and does not always present an accurate and really nonpartisan portrait of what happens in our village board meetings, and that's a part of record keeping. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Candidate Abraham?
So for me, I talk to constituents all the time, and during the campaign trail, I spoke to 2 real estate attorneys. And what they had informed me was several years ago, they've been making this request over and over again to the clerk's office, and what they want to do is they want to be able to digitalize the way that real estate documents are being sealed. And they could do it, other neighboring suburbs have been doing this digitally, but for some reason ours does not. And for them, it's a huge deal because when you do it manually, the turnaround time is could be almost a week. And if you've got holidays, it could be even longer. When you do it digitally, it just goes through and it just turnaround times within 24 hours. To me, not just that, but automating everything that you can automate in that office will free you up to actually have more people-facing time, which is super important to me. So that's one of the things that I would love to do is automate wherever we can, and that's pretty easy in today's digital age. And record keeping, the way that we do the minutes, even at District 219, one of the things that I struggle with is we get comments and we sometimes respond immediately, not at the meeting, but within a few days. Sometimes it could take a little bit longer. But nonetheless, we should be able to post these comments and whatever the resolution is on our website. And that's something that we should do with the clerk's office as well.
And candidate Desai.
So the village clerk's office is the official keeper of the records. All the records are maintained at Village Hall. Records I've looked into, they've been digitized dating back to 1905, and the village website provides access to the minutes dating back to 2012. For anyone that needs access to other records, they're welcome to reach out to the clerk's office and come in for assistance, and we're happy to help you with that. Additionally, I've worked on other innovations while I've been there. Remember, I've only been there for a short time, less than a year. In collaboration with the IT department, I've been working on automating the transfer stamp system. It's a project that's in the works, and I'm excited to launch it soon. We will be digitizing, we'll be taking payments online, but the clerk will still have to research the properties, see if there's any water due, see if there's any liens outstanding. So we still have to do the research, and it's time consuming. We get a lot of that. Additionally, I've worked on innovations to improve office efficiency, implemented mobile events, processed RTA applications, waiving photo fees because we're doing them online now. So it enhances the resident satisfaction. I've used my multilingual skills to enhance language access. I speak 6 different languages, and ensuring all members of our community are better served. Thank you.
On to the next question. What actions will you take to increase voter registration and voter turnout in elections, particularly municipal elections? And we're starting with candidate Abraham.
Thank you for that question. I actually did something for my own Assyrian community recently. As a result of me looking up the job description of the clerk when I was filing for my candidacy, what I found was that it is the clerk's office who manages polling places. And I've always wondered, since I've been in public service, why some of the community centers where a lot of immigrants hang out are not polling places. And so as I was researching this, I spoke to a community director, an Assyrian community director, and I said, hey, why can't we do this? You know, this is how we're supposed to do it. We reach out to this department and see how it goes. So she did. She reached out to the Cook County Clerk's office and spoke to a person, and they started talking about making the new community center on Church Street a polling place. So she came back to me, she said, am I talking to the right person? I confirmed she was talking to the right person through other colleagues of mine. And thankfully, on April 1st, that particular site will be a polling place. So we need to do this, especially for people from immigrant backgrounds, because generally they tend to be first-time voters, and they want to go someplace where they feel like they're supported. Sometimes there's language barriers, and they need help maybe filling out their ballots, and they may need assistance for that. So it's hugely important to get everyone voting, and this is the way to do it. Thank you.
Candidate Desai.
So while I've been in the clerk's office, I've implemented mobile events. That includes partnering with other agencies like the Park District, State Senator Ron Villavalm's office, Representative Olicol's office, RTA, just to partner and do mobile events together to increase voter registration, bring people out for other additional services. I've been speaking with residents outside. I think living in the community and being here for so long, it was very emotional for me because my name obviously is going to be on the ballot for the second time because it was there for Park District. But this time I have students who have graduated from high school that are submitting their mail-in ballots because they're going to come and vote for me and they see my name on the ballot. These are kids I've known since preschool, kindergarten. A lot of families who are not engaged in elections are now paying attention because they're looking to me as a resource to say, hey, what's going on? And I represent the whole community. Given that this is a nonpartisan role, I have Republican friends, Democrat friends, friends who are nothing, they've never participated in elections, and it's a way to bring the community together and get them engaged. I think living here for so long, it helps people feel comfortable with you as well.
And finally, candidate Johnson.
So first, I want to put this question in kind of perspective.
Sure.
So in the past 20 years, our local village elections have averaged 9% voter turnout for local elections. Mm. And the root problem of that is candidate turnout. We have averaged 1.1 candidates per position. Voters vote when they have choice and when they have meaningful choice. And I've been the only village official in the past half century to actually advocate for electoral reform. right now, because of the reforms that I've initiated, we have the highest candidate turnout that we've seen since the 1950s. And that's going to double, if not triple, voter turnout. So the systemic key to voter turnout is actually giving voters meaningful choice, and electoral reform is what does that. This is why I'm the lead organizer of Skokie's ranked choice voting campaign. We have the chance to be the third municipality in the state to do this. It radically increases candidate turnout and gives voters far more meaningful choices when they go vote. We're going to need, Skokie residents are almost surely going to pass this in April, and we're going to need a clerk that's going to advocate at the county and state level to get it implemented, because our county clerk's office is resisting a bit. So these systemic roots, that's how you increase voter turnout. Sometimes we kind of shame voters, and we say, oh, there's only 9% participating. Why don't people care? People care when they have meaningful choice, like you do right now. This is the most choice you've had for clerk since the 1950s, and look how full this room is. Thank you.
Next question. What budgetary trade-offs do you anticipate in setting priorities for the clerk's office? And we will start with candidate Desai.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What budgetary trade-offs do you anticipate in setting priorities for the clerk's office?
So given that the role has changed significantly since past years, we don't have enough staffing if we want to implement a lot of these time-constraining events or services. The clerk's role is handling citizens' assistance, maintaining records, safeguarding the seal, overseeing elections. I'm a trained passport acceptance agent. We process RTA applications. We issue temporary handicap placards. We're researching and issuing transfer stamps. For myself and the deputy clerk, are the only people in the office, that's a lot to do. Given the water main break, I was supposed to be off that day because my children had parent-teacher conferences. Well, as soon as I heard that happened, I came in. I worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, assisted with Public Works, Human Services, just the community, getting water distribution going with my colleagues. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and so sometimes we'll need a bigger budget, and that just means we need more time and resources, and I see the time. Yes, there's a lot of things that we do in the clerk's office that I don't think people truly understand that's being done, and thank you.
Candidate Johnson, same question.
So the clerk's office budget is almost entirely salaries. It's the clerk's salary, it's the deputy clerk's salary. Recently, I was the only member of the board who voted to not give the clerk a raise. By the end of next term, the clerk is expected to make close to $100,000 a year. If I'm elected, I'm going to literally give that money back to the taxpayers. For as long as I'm clerk, my salary will remain flat, and I will ensure that the clerk's office budget remains flat. We do need some extra funds. For the past 4 years, I've been advocating in our budget hearings for the village board that we allocate some funds to help digitize records and improve our record keeping. I think strong collaborations with community partners can help this problem a little bit, collaborating with the library, the Heritage Museum, the Historical Society. But overall, the key to maintaining a reasonable clerk's office budget is through maintaining salaries.
Candidate Abraham.
So I think the way to tackle that is probably through partnerships with other public institutions. I know that there is some shared responsibilities between Niles Township government and the clerk's office, and some of that is the passport processing. If that's something that we can offload a little bit more to them, that would free us up to do other things. That's one way to do it, is through those types of partnerships. The other thing is, we definitely would need to advocate for a bigger budget. I think automating where we can automate will free us up and make us more efficient. So that would be really the biggest priority for me, is I would want to invest time and money and automation, because once you get that done, then you are free to do everything else. So I think partnerships is the key, and focusing on automating the office, which will give us a lot more time to do all of the other things that we need to do in the clerk's office, which is engage and be more people-facing and be more inclusive. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, I agree with both of them. It's limited money, and you got to kind of like fight for it, but it's a good fight. It's a fight that's worth having.
Next question. How will you and your office work with the Cook County Clerk to support the responsibilities of your office? Candidate Johnson?
There are a lot of ways I could answer this question, but I'm going to start with kind of just the most pressing issue, which is the implementation of ranked choice voting.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. There are many ways I could address this question, but I think the most immediate concern is the implementation of ranked choice voting. So some of you may know Evanston and Oak Park, both in Cook County, have adopted ranked choice voting for their local elections. But our Cook County Clerk's office is resisting this implementation. Our local political parties don't really like electoral reforms like ranked choice voting that really level the playing field for a more diverse candidate base. I'm going to be advocating at the county level and the state level to ease this process. Ranked choice voting will be implemented in Illinois in the near future. It's being explored outside of Cook County as well. But I'm also going to be supporting initiatives like our state senator Laura Murphy has introduced a bill to help facilitate the implementation of ranked choice voting at the local level. Your clerk can be a countywide and regional advocate for electoral reform. We need that more than just kind of accepting the status quo with our clerk's office in how they run our local elections. So that's how I'd answer that question.
Candidate Abraham.
Yeah, for me, the one thing that I would prioritize, that I would want to partner up with the Cook County Clerk's office or other offices, is really to gauge what kind of social services they have and how would we be able to implement that here in Skokie. One of the things that I've read in our job description is that we are supposed to guide people towards social services that they need. And I think that many people that live in Skokie don't even know what that is. I would like to be able to open that up more and have more dialogue about that and have more programs that people can tap into. So that would be my priority with the other local clerk's offices, is to see what kind of programs do they have and would that benefit us here as well. Yeah, that to me is like the biggest thing, is just making sure that people really understand and know what services are available to them. And I don't think we do a really good job of communicating that. So I want to be able to see it, to know what they have, and then communicate it back out to our residents so they can come in and hopefully be able to utilize it. Thank you.
Candidate Desai.
So I want to start by saying this is not the night for education in how things work, but it's more of a forum, and we can speak about it more after. But the role of the village clerk is defined by state statute, village code, and guidance from the Municipal Clerks Association. It's important to note that this is not a position where one can create its own job description. It's a role with clear responsibilities that's established by the law. I do believe in the core values of democracy, and I trust that the voters have the right to make informed decisions. Ranked choice voting is not legal in Illinois. The referendum petition for this was submitted to the clerk's office, and I did certify it and put it on the ballot with guidance from the Cook County Clerk's office on how to go about that, because I've never certified a ballot. So that will be on the upcoming election. It will be up to the voters to decide whether or not they want to adopt that. It's important for me to note that this is not a personal decision. It's the clerk. The clerk's role is not a voting position. It's not a policy-making position. My role doesn't involve influencing or making decisions on the referenda. It will be a democratic process, and the voters have their own voice and can choose how they would like to vote on that item. I just want to remind people that the role is about serving the people, and I'm ready to do that. It's not a policy-making or a voting position. It's a service-oriented position.
Next question. What are your plans to ensure that your office communicates effectively with all Skokie residents? And we are starting with candidate Abraham.
Yeah, so for me, that would be, I think communication is the biggest issue. I know many people who reach out to me all the time, constituents, and are always asking me, why can't we do this? Or so there's certainly a large group of residents who simply do not know how to navigate what is available to them. And most of it, again, it's due to the communities that I know are immigrant communities, and again, language barriers and just lack of time. So people need to be met where they are. It's just a way of life in Skokie. So for me, we would definitely need to be able to communicate in multiple different languages. And people often make the mistake of thinking we would just write it out in different languages. But people don't understand that many immigrants don't even know how to read and write in their own native language. Many people do not go to school, especially women, so they just don't have that. So we would need a way to be able to communicate, and I think the way to do that is through ambassadors. You would have a connection with the community and make sure that you get that information out to them. I think the mainstream residents who do know how to navigate this, you could do that through digital through online digital communication, very easily done. But I think the challenge is getting it to the people who need it and are not getting it. And that to me is like we just need to be able to actually have ambassadors and relationships with these communities to be able to get that information out to them.
Candidate Desai.
So I agree. Language barriers are an issue, and again, with speaking multiple languages and communicating with different groups of people is very important. We do have a tool at the village. It's like this little device. It's like a little pocket translator. You can type in whatever language it is and translate it to English and vice versa. So that is very helpful as well. The front desk has it. The clerk's office has it. We're able to get more if needed. I think mobile events that I've implemented, I've done 7 so far, and I continue to do them, which we had never done before. I think that's really important to get out in the community, show what other services we have to offer, and people are very interested in passports. And we've worked with the health department doing immunization fairs and different educational pieces so they know what we do there at the village. Even before I was elected, you can ask my family, I've always received phone calls. I think just being in the community, reaching out to people, talking to people. I get calls all the time. It might be like at 11 o'clock at night. Oh, I need a plumber. Oh, how do I apply for a permit? My neighbors have called and said, I need to put up a fence. Do I need a permit? So it's just navigating these processes and getting them to the right place. And again, that's the citizens assistance piece of the clerk's role. Thank you.
Candidate Johnson.
Thank you. So currently, I am the only member of the village board that does any kind of official communication with residents. I have a trustee newsletter, I have a trustee Facebook page where I share very freely, here's what's going on with active policy making, here's what policy updates. I'm gonna do a lot more of that as clerk, except in a much more overtly nonpartisan way without any policymaker editorializing. So ahead of every village board meeting, you're going to be able to sign up for kind of a meeting agenda report that says, here's the agenda, here's everything that's on it, here's where you go for more information, here's where what you need to know if you want to contribute public comments, written or in person. And we also need to, so that'll be part of what I do. We also really need to boost the clerk's office's online presence. The clerk's office does not have an online presence outside of our village website. We briefly, our clerk had a kind of a clerk's office Facebook page, but it was converted into a private political page. I'm going to have a clerk's office Instagram social media presence, that really outlines communications about voter registration, early voting, mail-in ballots, everything you need to know, candidate deadlines, information about village board meetings. And really, I think the key is presence. If you walk inside Village Hall, often the village clerk's office is unattended. We need a clerk that is very, very present. I'm not going to work in a back office like clerks have in the past. I'm going to work really right up front.
Next question. What changes, if any, would you implement to ensure that the clerk's office provides equitable access and services to all residents? We're starting with candidate Desai.
So again, being a minority, a woman, mother of 3, I'm constantly in the community and have access to all walks of life. I don't think I represent one segment. You'll never see me walking around with just Indian people. I associate myself with Greeks, Romanians, Serbians, black, white. I mean, if you look at my, any of my social media pages, it is not just one segment of the population. I am there to serve because I speak multiple languages. I am in the community. People feel comfortable approaching me and coming up to me and asking me from the silliest questions to the most important questions. And I'm just very accessible and transparent. Thank you.
Candidate Johnson.
There's a few ways I could answer this question, so I'm going to highlight some initiatives that I haven't talked about yet. First of all, as your local election official, something I really want to do is I want to host public, nonpartisan candidate training sessions ahead of every election cycle to just radically boost candidate turnout and voter participation in our local election. Imagine before every election cycle, you could come to a forum like here at the library and learn, here's everything you have to do to become a candidate, and kind of demystify the process and increase candidate turnout across the board in our school board races, park district, library board, village board, a diverse base of candidates like we have right now in our village elections. Right now we have the most diverse base of candidates we've ever had. That's what's going to really energize the multicultural interfaith voters of Skokie. Also talking about equity, we need to rethink the role of the village clerk with inside village board meetings. One of the big things I'm going to do is I'm going to moderate public comments. Those of you who have been to village board meetings know that our public comments are often very poorly moderated. Often the rules and regulations of public comments are not even spelled out, or sometimes they're kind of overtly broken. So that's part of what I'm going to do and to ensure that public participation is managed and moderated in a really, really equitable and transparent way inside of village board meetings. Thank you.
Candidate Abraham.
Yeah, similar to what my colleagues are saying, we have such a diverse community. It's really, you have to be everywhere all at once, literally. And that's what I've done at District 219. What I've noticed is, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's really, you really have to meet everyone where they are. There are people that you can talk to during business hours, they're available. But there are many people who are not, and I literally pick up the phone. And I know that oftentimes a lot of the people that we serve at the school level, the families, the students, they don't have time and they don't even pay attention to what's going on. And I make it a point to like literally pick up the phone and talk to parents and say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's coming up, you need to be aware. Is this something that you want to do, you don't want to do? You need to show up and take action if you don't, or what, but just getting the information out there so that people can make informed decisions about how to vote, what to do, what is expected of them, how do they want to be served. So that is really important, and that's what I've done all along. And so that's the only way that you could include everyone. And again, it's the way of life in Skokie. You can't meet everybody at the same place. You can't just say, hey, we're going to have a town hall and everybody show up. It doesn't work that way. You have a town hall and maybe 50 people show up. The others are catching up with life because we work with a lot of working families, and so it's very difficult. So you have to be everywhere all at once, and that's the only way to be inclusive and equitable.
Next question. Some communities in Cook County have appointed clerks. Do you think an elected or an appointed clerk can be most effective? And what are your reasons for this view? We're starting with candidate Johnson.
I really like this question. I think about this a lot. You know, I on a kind of philosophical level, I like the idea of an elected clerk as being a true, like, you know, a representative. That being said, when I've explored other clerks' offices or when I've gone online to other village websites to look at how do other communities handle meeting minutes and public comment policies and open meetings compliance, I often find that appointed clerks are doing a better job because they are kind of merit-based, nonpartisan professionals. So I am on the side of having an elected clerk. But I can understand why many communities choose to have an appointed clerk. It is a difficult job. We have very nonpartisan, we have a very nonpartisan, merit-based professional process for appointing, for example, our village manager, who does an incredible job of overseeing our fantastic police department and fire department and public works department. But I would like to think that there is merit in having an elected clerk, that you can serve as really an independent advocate for residents in a more dynamic way than perhaps purely a professional appointee could do the job.
Candidate Abraham.
Yeah, I completely agree with my colleague James Johnson. I can see doing both. I think, having an elected clerk, it gives people the opportunity to vote for someone they feel could represent them really well, which is great. But I could also see, being appointed where you're literally just appointing somebody based on merit and qualifications, because it's not a voting position, so I could see why people would lean towards that. It's not a policy-making position. It makes sense to just appoint someone to do that work. However, if you are going to have someone who advocates for residents, then it should be an elected position. So it can go either way. I think it's really going to depend on the community and what that community wants for themselves. For Skokie, it's such a diverse community that I think having an elected clerk is really the best way for us. Thank you.
Candidate Desai.
So again, I'm just going to touch on that the village clerk is not, you can't make the job description up. It is defined by a state statute, village code. If that were to be changed, it would have to go to referendum. The community would have to decide if this is going to be an appointed position or an elected position. I personally, after doing this for less than a year, can tell you how difficult it is, what an honored and respected position it is, but the amount of hours that I've put in this short time just being appointed, not being merit-based, not being compensated for working above and beyond, getting a lot of criticism from the community, campaigning for the position, it's a lot of work. There's so many successful women who are in business. We need to support that, but you can't not support that by criticizing them, by not paying them what they need to be paid and compensated. Again, I'll go back to the water main break. I worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday till midnight every day. I did the job as a clerk, and of course from hearing all these things that you need to be out in the community, sometimes I'm not in the office. But sometimes I am in the office, and when I am in the office, I'm in the back office. Our deputy clerk is in the front handling. We have a bell that people can ring the bell, but we have to do our work. So sometimes I need to focus and get things done. These are a lot of important decisions and work that would need to be done, that you need to focus. Again, I worked, okay, time. We can talk next door.
This is going to be our last question this evening. What steps will you take to nurture a positive and effective relationship with other elected village officials and village staff? And we are starting with candidate Abraham.
Yeah, so to me, being on District 219, One of the things that you learn rather quickly, to get things done, you need to build relationships. I think that's in every organization. It's not just in public office. I think everywhere you work, you need to build relationships to get things done. So that's a priority for me no matter where I am, whether it's private or public office. But it is critically more important when you're in public office, because this is really, that's how communication becomes effective, right? You build the relationship, you have some information from residents that they may not have, you can feed that into the elected officials, and this is how those conversations, important conversations, happen that affect policy at some point or another. And so I think you need to really work on developing a relationship where communication is a constant thing. It happens all the time, because without it, you can't be effective at what you do. They can't be very effective with what they do, and I can't be very effective at what I do either. It's literally collaborative effort. The entire board has to work together, and to do that, you need to be able to communicate comfortably with one another. One thing that I can tell you is, with District 219, we have staggered elections. There's 7 members, right? And every 2 years, 3 people come off and 3 people come on. Sometimes the same ones come on, sometimes you have new members come on. And we call it, once the new people come on, we call it a time of storming and then forming. At the end of the day, I can tell you all that you feel like they're members of your family. Your board is your family, and you have to treat them like family. So I think relationships is the key. Thank you.
Candidate Desai.
I can say it's very easy for me to pick up the phone and call anyone that I need to, from the state senator's office to our state rep's office to working with our colleagues in Village Hall. It does go back to relationships. I've had relationships with everyone I think I've worked there. There's been some kind of connection. Either someone's played baseball together, someone plays softball together. We've gone to Tot Learning Center together. I've had a relationship from serving on the Park District Board, working at a community event, volunteering at something. I think it's helpful that I've been so involved in the community that I'm sure if we figure it out, I'll have a connection with everybody in this room, somehow. I give a lot of credit to being in community banking. That helped me build so many relationships, from residents to business owners to schools, sports organizations. I think it's just really important just being connected, and my kids are a huge positive. I think sometimes I'll walk into a room and they'll say, oh, you're so-and-so's mom, or you're so-and-so's husband or wife or whatever it is. You just have that connection with people somehow just from being involved and showing up in the community. Thank you.
Candidate Johnson.
This is where I think my background as an educator really comes in. I have 10 years of experience managing high school classrooms and really complex interpersonal dynamics. But I already have a lot of experience with inside Village Hall. One of the best things I think I've done as a trustee for my own work is that for 4 years, I asked for a standing weekly meeting with our village manager. I've spent more time than any trustee on the board in our village manager's office, learning from him and his staff. And I have learned so much from the way he treats every single member of the board very equitably, very impartially. And I would really like to model that as clerk. I think also key is collaboration with whoever our next mayor is. The mayor is the chair of the board, and a strong collaboration between the mayor and the clerk is truly what eases the dynamics on the board. Those of you who know kind of what I've been through as a trustee, interpersonal dynamics on the board are really challenging. I'm the first independent on the board. All of my colleagues have been elected from a single party, and from day one, communication was really difficult. When I would email my colleagues, when I would text them, I would often get 0 responses. I would often walk into village board meetings and ask to dialogue, and that dialogue wouldn't be there. A member of the board has never asked me to collaborate on a single policy issue, so a lot can be done for board collaboration.
We've now reached the time for closing statements, and as I earlier indicated, we're going to proceed in reverse alphabetical order. The time for each closing statement is 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds. We begin with Candidate Johnson.
Wonderful. Y'all, this village election is incredibly important for Skokie. This is a transition election. We are experiencing our new electoral system for the very first time, and voters have more choices and more meaningful choices than they've had in many decades. And as much as I would absolutely love your support for Clerk, more importantly, I want to really encourage all of you to rally behind the great nonpartisan, independent, and progressive candidates that we have on our ballot. We need antennas in our mayor's office. We need phenomenal trustees like Gail Schechter on our village board.
Please, audience,
I'll move on. I'll move on.
That's true. You are campaigning.
My
and
apologies.
so, yes, please do.
I'll move
And
on.
please, audience, I will be moderating, not you. Thank you.
I apologize. I think Skokie has been at the forefront of some really incredible pro-democracy reform in the state of Illinois, and I'd really like to see that continue. I'll pause my comments on ranked choice voting if that is the appearance of campaigning. I would like to continue my work to ensure that Skokie has the most inclusive, most dynamic, and forward-thinking electoral system in the state. And I think our community deserves it. We live in one of the most beautifully international, multicultural, interfaith communities in the state, and our local electoral system needs to reflect that inclusivity. Thank you.
Candidate Desai.
Thank you. I'm deeply committed to Skokie, if you haven't picked up on that, for the role of Skokie Clerk, which I'm honored and respected to be in that position currently. I think it's the heart of the village, from leading in the pledge at board meetings to swearing in our officers and commanders. These individuals are people who I've known and my children have known growing up here. It's such an honor. I think I had tears in my eyes when the first time I had to do it. So having worked and lived here for over 30 years and raising my kids here, this is a place I call home. I'm not going anywhere. I plan on serving the community. I always did, and I will continue to do so. I'm personally invested in the well-being in our community. My strong relationships over the years with the residents, the children, the business office, businesses, the police, fire departments, it makes it easy to serve in this role, and it just feels very comfortable. I want to make sure, and I have ensured, that the clerk's office is a welcoming place for everyone. This role is not just a job, it's a service to our residents, and my track record reflects my dedication to serving our community, and I genuinely care, and I'm not politicizing the role with any personal agendas. Again, I want to say this short time, I've worked diligently to learn, train, striving to be the best appointed clerk for the community without any complaints that I've heard. I hope this information demonstrates that I'm the right person for this role. And again, it's not a policy-making or a voting position. It's truly a service-oriented role.
Candidate Abraham.
Thank you. So, being a Syrian American, you know, when I first ran, I was asked to actually run for District 219 to represent people who looked like me, people who were American, but at the same time an immigrant of a background as well. And that's really where I fell in love with public service, because once I got on there, what I realized almost immediately is there were so many people that were underrepresented. Our engagement at the school level is like less than 30%. That's heartbreaking to me. Students that were there at that time, it's much better now, but at that time in 2017, there was a lot less Black and brown students taking advanced level classes. Now there's a lot more because of the work that we've done, because of my presence on that board to represent. And I want to bring that level of representation to the clerk's office as well. So I've had some really great proud moments at District 219, and inclusion and equity is the biggest thing. Being an Assyrian myself and having passed the Assyrian language class was a big win for me. But not just because of that, but it's because it was a need, and we got it before the board, and we actually made it happen. And there's something very addictive about having a goal and making it happen. And I want to do the same thing as a clerk. I want people to come up to me, tell me what their needs are, and I will make it happen. And I can guarantee you, I'm only doing this for one term. I'm not going to use tax dollar money to waste it. If I can't do what I want to do in 4 years, I will not run again. Thank you.
Candidates and audience, thank you for your participation this evening. I'm sure everyone here this evening will be voting, but I have an assignment for you. Make sure that your family, friends, and neighbors also get out to vote. This is the end of our forum, so if you wish to, you may join the candidates in the Rodmacher room next door for further discussion. Thank you very much.